Alrighty, everybody, it is time to turn it over to IBA All Day with a Kingdom Hearts HD 1.5 plus 2.5 remix max level Super Boss Rush. So go ahead and take it away.
How's it going, everyone? I am IBAALDAY. Um, so this is a rather unique category that we're going to be showing off today. It is as Old mentioned, it is a Super Boss Rush of 1FM and 2FM. So we are currently at maximum level on both games, and we've equipped ourselves with pretty much as much of high quality items as we can to make all of these fights truly incredible to go through. So the very first fight we're going to be starting off with is going to be Sephiroth, and the time will start as soon as the nameplate pops up for the match. Um, and we're going to be facing off against about 19 or 20 bosses in a row. All of these are incredibly tough bosses as it is, and normally you wouldn't see these guys unless you're doing like any of the extended categories, so like JJ, which is Doom Eternal, or doing like 100% runs or plat runs or anything like that. So this is kind of a unique way of showing off all of these bosses in a consecutive manner at a very high setting.
We're ready whenever you are.
Here we go in 3, 2, 1. Right away, we're gonna dodge roll here to avoid Sephiroth's opening attack. We can open up with one of two ways. We can either flash right at you or jump right over. So what we're going to be trying to do with Sephiroth here is we're going to try and control him in this fight. We don't want him really running around a lot because Sephiroth is very agile, as you can see. So we want him to be doing these fire pillar attacks, which keeps him stationary, which makes it a lot easier for us to control him. And so once he starts doing those fire pillars, we're just going to follow up with an Arcanum. We're not going to continue with the extension of it, because we want to be able to try and squeeze in as many of these as we can while keeping them under control. Once he goes into his little state here, we're going to hopefully try and get him to get staggered here, because otherwise if he doesn't stagger, it makes it very impossible to continue on with the fight, and we have to actually deal with their DM, which we're actually very lucky so far that we haven't been able to. Very, very lucky there that we didn't have to see his DM. Normally, when he does his little like hand motion at you and the orbs spawn, it's usually way too late at that point, and he will not stagger. So luckily, we were able to get the DM skip, which is really tough to do on Sephiroth because he's very hard to stagger at that point. And it saves a lot of time because his DM isn't really that tough to deal with. It's just a long process, unfortunately. Then moving on to the next boss here, we have Ice Titan. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be mixing in deflections of his icicles back at him, and when he does his little ground slam, we're going to be using gravity from a distance because we can do some damage from a distance on his head. Because the only way that we can damage him right now is by reflecting his icicles or using magic on his head. And so we can't just spam the magic either. We have to wait for his head to be in a proper position. Otherwise, we won't be able to have any effect of gravity at all. So here we're going to continue with a full combo, another full combo, and then we're going to do a bunch of non-finishers here just because it's quicker to do that versus doing a finisher. We're going to dodge roll away here, do more reflections as much as we can here. Normally at this point, you want to try and have him down to being able to peek at his green bar, which sends him into his next state, which he does a giant AoE ice attack, which is very easy to avoid. You can either steer yourself through it, or you can just move out of the zone of it. Fortunately, he's not playing too nice right now with his icicle pattern. So we're kind of having to use a lot of heals right now, which we don't want to try and do simply because I want to try and conserve these elixirs if I can. Then, oh, wait, what's this in? And once towards the end of the AoE ice attack, you can simply move out of the way, and he'll launch another series of icicles. Probably gonna have to use an elixir here just to be safe on magic. And the lower his health gets too, when he starts. I'm not trying to dodge roll. It keeps saying I'm dodge rolling here. But the lower his health gets, and once you start staggering more, you have a shorter period of time to be able to stagger him. So at that point, I stopped doing full combos just because it's quicker again to just squeeze in a bunch of air hits versus trying to do instead of having to try and do finishers, it's just quicker to do a bunch of air hits since our damage output is pretty solid. And that's the end of the OC super bosses. Now we're moving on to Agrabah to face Kurt Ziza. Kurt Ziza is kind of a very challenging boss in a number of ways. So at the very start of the fight, Kurt Ziza has a lockout mechanic of your magic, which prevents you from, of course, using any kind of magic until you break both of his hands. There is a way to get a one cycle on this fight, so you don't have to deal with him any further, and hopefully we're gonna be able to pull that off. So we're gonna be having Goofy help us out a lot here with tornadoes. So my setting with Goofy, I have him set up to where he's basically doing tornadoes quite often. So once we break both of his hands, it's just a bunch of gravities here. All goes to town with tornadoes. Once we get down to a certain point of his health, we just start going in and joining the fight here. And very nice one cycle there. If you don't get the one cycle, it just is a little bit of a delay, and you end up having to use another elixir to replenish the magic really quickly. And when Ziza recovers, he forms a magical barrier around him that can only be broken using magic. And the big problem with that is he could bounce around the arena a lot, or he could be kind of standstillish. So that's why it's kind of important to try and hopefully get that one cycle. That way you don't have to try and deal with that next segment. Now we're on to kind of the most boring part of this run. We're basically playing Simon Says. That's basically the nature of this boss here. The gimmick with this fight is this clock tower. Phantom has the ability with this clock tower, once it starts ticking, to perma remove your party members. We don't want that right now because we need the boys to kind of help keep up with replenishment on magic. And also they can be kind of useful in the fight when it comes to physical attack. So when a white bubble is shown for Phantom here, it's a physical attack. When it's yellow, it's thunder. When it's blue, it's blizzard, and red is fire. Those are the only four things that you can see in this fight. It is a little of a bother with the boys being here sometimes, just because they can get in the way of being able to see what kind of orb you're looking at. But they can be very helpful because with physical attacks, if Goofy gets in there with tornadoes, it can severely speed the fight up. We are going to intentionally get the boys perma removed towards the end of this fight because we don't want them anywhere near the end of this fight. So Phantom takes 3 hits for each thing before he moves on to the next cycle. And so another thing too, the reason we keep moving off to the side from where Phantom is at is when he does when he goes towards the clock tower, he shoots out this special orb that will circle Sora in a normal setting. But if you move off to the side of the clock tower, you can actually avoid having to deal with that attack. And so I continue to stop the clock towards the end of him launching that. We're going to do that one more time because once we get down to his, or no, we're not going to be doing it anymore because once we it's just a comfort thing for me. It's just quicker for me to be able to menu down to, or menu up to Fire if I have to, or if it's immediately on Blizzaga, then it's uh, it's just a switch to do that. So as you can see, Goofy's been helping out quite a bit here with the fight. Um, Goofy again can be very helpful in this fight in terms of if it's physical attack consistently, then it makes it very easy here to typically knock out those attacks with Goofy. Another thing that we're doing in this fight too is we're kind of keeping Phantom as close to the clock tower as possible. So afterwards, I move kind of opposite of where Phantom is positioned, and so that way Phantom on um, is on the Phantom's back is I should say is turned to the clock tower, which makes it a little bit quicker for him going to the clock tower. Because we don't want him running around rampant like this. And that's the end of that fight. Pretty solid fight. There's not really too much more you can do to speed it up other than just hope for good RNG with his orbs. Depending on depending on what he throws out, it can be sped up a little bit. Thunder is kind of like the slowest one you can get because it takes so long to be able to cast consistent or consecutive thunders. Whereas with Fire or Blizzaga, we're able to cast those a little bit quicker. And the physical attacks they're kind of whatever for the most part. Now we have the most difficult part of this run. Is unknown. Even at max level, this fight is still very scary. So we're going to be doing a mixture of gravities and Ars Arcanums. We're only going to be doing a combination of gravity and just the opening state of Ars. We're not going to do any kind of extension here. And we got locked out. This is where it gets scary. I need it to happen now. Yep, that's unfortunate. It's a very unfortunate thing that you want to hopefully avoid. Unfortunately, I did not roll out of the way in time. So we got trapped in that. And it's very... The only reason I don't shift around on the command is because eventually he will get to the release. And it slows down a little bit towards the end of it as well. But the biggest thing is you just don't want to get trapped in that at all because it is, again, very dangerous. That's kind of the only thing that makes this fight incredibly dangerous for this run is because of that move. If he didn't have that maneuver, this fight wouldn't be as bad. But nonetheless, it happened. Yeah, once again, we're just going to be doing a bunch of arches here. When he starts doing his little extended like physical attack here, that's when I do arches and try and extend them. So during his little DM, we're just going to keep in position over here because his next attack following up after this is a counterclockwise attack. And if we could keep him close against the wall, then we are able to deal some damage while he does that. Because otherwise, when he's out in the open, he got locked out again. So when he's out in the open like that, doing the counterclockwise, it makes it very annoying. That's not what I wanted. He's currently not cooperating with me at all here. And I got locked out a third time. Oh boy. He tried to lock me out again. Oh my gosh. And we're dealing with another DM. This is not an ideal fight at all. He is not cooperating with everything after this. Oy. We're gonna burn another mega. So as soon as that fight is done, we do a soft reset, which gets us immediately back to the 1FM menu. And fortunately, that fight was not exactly a good fight, but that's alright. Like I said, that fight is the most dangerous fight in this run. The other run that I have been doing here lately, which we just got a brand new PB yesterday, as a matter of fact, includes Birth by Sleep, and our most dangerous fight is our very first fight with Mysterious Figure. Because again, it's a very random fight, similar to Unknown, and it's just kind of going with the flow the best that we can. Our next fight coming up is the beginning of our 2FM portion here with Sephiroth once again. Movement's a lot better in 2FM. We have the ability to do aerial dodges into glides, which makes things a lot faster for movement from area to area. So unfortunately, the way I've got this set up, I have 3 save files because at the time of making my Super Boss stuff, I was so far off with where stuff was at that it was just easier to do the separate save files until I had an actual chance to have it all be one thing. So here we're gonna go reflect, slapshot, reflect, reflect, reflect. Something that a lot of people will come to notice is we're going to be utilizing Reflect a lot for some of our stuff here because Reflect is very powerful. And we're able to also avoid Sephiroth's DM. He does have an automatic power-up state that is unavoidable, so once you get down to about 4 or 5 bars left on him, he'll automatically teleport away and go into his power-up state. Any lower on his health, if you don't manage to continue at him for the most part without having him teleport away, he will go into a DM state, much similar to how his DM was in 1FM. His DM in 2FM is a little scarier, but not as bad. Ooh, perfect. This is a very good opening here. So with Lingering Will, I doggle away here. We're going to open up with 2 finishers, go into Death Flare immediately into the finisher, and just do a bunch of aerial spirals here. That's unfortunate. Yeah, this is very unfortunate because these things are here. There we go. Now we've got control of the fight again. So unfortunately, my aerial spirals are not coming out, which is really unfortunate because I lost out on a bit of damage. But it worked out because I was able to send Lingering Will straight into his VM state instead of teleporting away, which helps save a little bit of time here. And so we're going to go ahead and reflect the entire way through this. Then we're going to follow up with Guard Break in the final form. Still a pretty good fight, all things considered. Him opening up with Ultimate Cannon is the best case scenario. And the reason for that is when he does Ultimate Cannon, his defense, when it's reflected back at him, is reduced, which makes it a lot easier for us to get into Duck Flare. Because if he opens up with Ultimate Cannon, then I only have to do 2 finishers, and I'll have a lot more damage as well on top of that. And on top of that, his defense is already lowered, so the damage output by the time I get into Duck Flare is already exponentially better than what it would be in a normal opening. So here, data org is done out of order, so all of this is not manipulated. So we're going to open up with a flash step into limit form here. We're going to do a full combo with a second finisher, third finisher into Arc Arcanum. We're going to follow up with a 1-2 into another Arc, not doing the finisher. And bada boom. It was kind of done a little weird there. So normally you don't want to have Roxas kind of get like hit in the air on the second Zetsuken. So our next fight with Marluxia, we're presetting Blizzard and presetting Final Form since we used Limit Form with Roxas. So we're going to open up with the Thunder, Blizzard, Fire, move up, pop a Mega Elixir, and Reflect. And unfortunately, my input was a little late there, so it didn't come out. So it's going to be kind of improv here, this fight, which is fine. Go into Final Form once again, and we're just going to do a bunch of Fire Ragas. That's going to be kind of the theme with a lot of these fights, is Final Form Fire Raga. As Final Form Fire Raga is one of the strongest maneuvers that we have in this game. Still pretty good recovery, all things considered. Normally, the reason we pop the Mega Elixir there is so that way, when Donald dies, which is inevitable with that opening, Donald's immediately back in the fight, so that way you can immediately be able to do Final Form. So here we're going to be utilizing Mega Flare a lot with a combination of fires. As soon as we pop Duck Flare, we're going to immediately go into Mega Flare while popping the Mega Elixir, so that way we can follow up with Fire Ragas. And that's just to help speed this up without using any forms. We're not going to be using any forms until we break Demix's clones all the way. And that's just going to be the whole theme of this fight, is just breaking Demix's water clones here. And then we're going to go into Final Form here now. And we're just going to be using Final Form Fire Ragas while pushing Demix over into a corner. The reason we're pushing him over into a corner is for the final phase of this fight. which is more water clones. And with Demic being in the corner, it makes it a lot easier for us to do fires while he's in the corner because then it prevents his clones from being able to go running about all over the place. And it makes it a lot easier for us to continue pressuring with fires. On this one, we're not going to use Duck Flare because it's only 13 clones, so there's no need for us to pop it. And then we're going to go back into another Duck Flare here, where this is the final sequence here of 99. Once we finish up with our fires, here we're going to go into final form again and utilize Fire-Aga again. And we'll be ending the fight with Thunder here as soon as we break Demic one last time here. This fight is very RNG based, even with the Manip, because his water clones can do whatever they want in terms of staying close to Demic or shooting out like no tomorrow. Next up, we have Sayak. We're going to be opening up with a very old strat, but it's a strat that I utilize for the time being. And we're opening up with a bunch of Thunders until we run out of finishers. And then we're going to slide back into Sayak here and go into final form. And it's just going to be Fire-Agas from here on out. There's a slightly advanced strat that utilizes going into final form a little sooner, reverting out of final form and doing some reflect slap that reflect stuff with them Sayak, but I haven't been able to get that, so that's why I stick to the old strat. Not too much slower, but it definitely gets the job done. So here we're going to open up with Flex into a full ground combo, into final form again. But what's going to be different with this is we're not going to be able to end the fight in final form. So I'm going to have to utilize reverting into Duck Flare. And we're in the clear. There's a Whirla Juice strat, which is an incredible, beautiful strat. I haven't practiced that yet, which is a very, very cool looking strat. And it's pretty cool if you're able to pull it off. But you have to manually menu magnet, and I haven't been comfortable with that yet. So, all right, next up, Dalton. Hopefully he cooperates. He did not, unfortunately. He did his one, so we're kind of in trouble here already. But we'll be able to recover. I have a nice backup here for after, in case he does his one attack. That was very unfortunate. I apologize, chat, for that. Some of my inputs are not coming out. That's fine. We get a second chance here to hopefully have him cooperate and not lunge. And unfortunately, he lunged again. But I might be able to recover this somehow. Nope. So we don't want Dalton lunging when we go to start our final form air combo, because if he does lunge, chances are we're going to get hit. Which makes it really difficult to be able to do anything with final form. Yeah, I knew that was coming. And unfortunately, because we auto-reverted at 1 HP, we're gonna die. That's the only thing that does suck about this being manipulous, is Zalman is a little bit more at your mercy. Unfortunately, we staggered him, which is what we don't want to have happen here, so I'm going to try and... That's fine. I'm going to have him jump away again. So normally what we want is we want Zoltan to get staggered. When we go to do the start of the final flow combo and do his roundabout attack. All right, good recovery at least on that attempt again there. We'll have another chance to show off the awesome final form air combo jungle. That is ended here. We're going to be opening up with a reflect, slap shot, reflect, reflect, slap shot, reflect, slap shot, reflect, reflect, reflect. Unfortunately, a little early on, or a little late with the reflect there, so I'm going to have to improvise with a different strat here. That's fine. Oh, he's at the point where of no return there. I am so sorry for my cough, cat. I had COVID a couple weeks back, and unfortunately, I got stuck with the lingering cough after the fact. I was a little early on that. We want the finish, so that way it's just immediately into infinity to finish the fight there. But that'll work. Yeah, normally the way that it goes is reflect, slap shot, reflect, slap shot, reflect, 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 all the way into the end of it, and then you go into limit form followed with parse. Since you can revert. Oh, yeah. That's fine. So you're gonna teleport away. Or reflect, slap shot, reflect. This is not the ideal method that you want, but it'll work. There's not the ideal way you want to handle the fight, but it can get the job done. Alright, don't drink water yet. There is no dumb skip on console. There is a mod, a Lure mod now on PC where dumb skip is an option. I think they have it as two separate things now for dumb skip mod and also like the nip mod. And then just normal data org. How do you deal with this lovely cutscene once again? I say once again because we see this cutscene at the end of our any percent run. And they decided to include this in data.org as well. So it's a nice little breather in data.org. It's just kind of silly. That's why Don't Skip was kind of a nice change of life for data.org because you didn't have to sit through this. Point being, we're going to change our Keyblades. Something I probably haven't mentioned just yet. The reason we changed our Keyblades for Zoldan and Zigbar to Hero's Crest is because of the final form juggle. Hero's Crest has a unique attribute called Air Combo Boost. And so when we do our finishers, we get an increase based on the amount of attacks we've done in the air. And so once we go into final form, this is the juggle here. We open up with an air combo into fire, followed by an air combo again, fire, finisher, fire, finisher, fire, fire down to the ground. And the reason you want to touch the ground is it resets the air combo, which allows us to do that entire juggle there. And another thing with Zigbar is if you position Zigbar too high, you will not be able to do the juggle, for Zigbar will be too high up in the ground, off the ground for you to be able to do your air combo continuation. Veteran, by the way, is one of the more trickier ones to navigate for DM kids, because you can't just obliterate him. He will auto DM if you do too much damage. So we have to kind of manipulate the amount of damage that we do opening up, so that way we can avoid his DM entirely. So with Zek in here, he's going to trap our friends in the book. We're going to break our friends out of the book here one more time. And we're going to go in on Zekian here with a full combo into final form once again. And just final form fire arrows for the win. We have 3 fights remaining now. Next up is Axel. Axel, we're going to be doing manual blizzard here, which can be a little bit tricky. We're also going to be switching over to Mysterious Bliss because it has a blizzard boost, which boosts our blizzard damage. So here we're going to wait a moment. Reflect, blizzard, reflect. Yeah, I was just taking death there. Unfortunately, I was a little too early. And also, Axel decided that he was going to walk up, which is what you don't want. I also was a little late on my blizzard when I went to go into the reflect, which caused Axel to be able to hit me there. So when he goes away there, you want to try and quickly reflect, as you can do quite a bit of damage. Normally you can send Axel away a lot sooner and do the reflect into the RC, because the only way you can end the fight is when the ground isn't covered in fire. Pretty good second attempt there. So now, once again, we're switching back to decisive here. We're gonna open up with reflect, flash up, reflect, slide back, reflect into final form here. We're gonna do a really cool strat here. So we're gonna do another fire here. Mega Elixir, reflect into fire. Normally you could do the Mega Elixir a little sooner there. And the reason for popping the Mega Elixir is it causes Larcene to retaliate with her lightning. And you go into reflect, fire, finisher, or not, reflect, fire, which will do enough damage to finish her off from there. Now for our final fight here, we're going to be doing Lustered a little bit different than how we normally see it. So instead of playing Lustered's game, which would help speed this fight up a lot, we're just kind of doing this the classic beat 'em up way. That's just to kind of be safe here, because with Data.org, everything is set up, which means Luster's little mini game is also set up, and you have less time to be able to get the correct You have less time to guess the correct thing before you get transformed. And to try and manipulate Luxord a little bit, we're going to be doing Thunders here at the end of the ground combo. And unfortunately, because his cards were nearby, we did Explosion instead of Guard Break. And the reason for the Thunders is we're hoping to get Luxord to play his little game so that we can just do 2 hits, reflect into a finisher. Unfortunately, Luxord's not cooperating here. Once we get down to about the split of his bar up there, we go into Trinity because Luxord's DM is a little bit quicker to happen on the data org versus the story fight. So we want to make sure that we pop into Trinity or go straight into the limit form in order to be able to avoid his DM. Because again, everything is set up. So his mini game at the very end, unless you're doing pause buffers, it makes it incredibly difficult to get on the first go. Oh, and that was time. I apologize. I was caught up in explaining.
GG's IBA, awesome job. Do you have any shout outs you would like to give before the end of the run?
Yeah, I want to give a huge shout out to the Cage community. I want to give honestly a shout out to BizKit047. He's kind of what inspired me to want to do this kind of run because he used to do a bunch of level 1 like series runs for the heck of it, and I was like, that's kind of a cool thing to want to try and do. So I've been slowly working my way up. Our next step after yesterday, we're going to be including Cage 3 now into our run. So before long, we will be doing an entire series run on the hardest difficulty at max level. So it could be kind of an exciting project in the works. For anyone that wants to catch my runs outside of events, I'm over at IBA all day. I do super boss runs. We're probably gonna be taking a break from it for a little while just so we can get our stuff set up. But we do any percent runs. We do all sorts of things. But and we also want to give a shout out to all of you guys for having me on. It's been an incredible event, and let's give it up for our next runner.
Awesome. Thank you so much, IBA. We're going to go to a quick intermission. And while we are on our intermission, we are going to be setting up for Rave Master, Haru Hard, or True Hard Percent by DB Cade. You guys will want to be checking out that run. I also just want to give a quick reminder to all of the incentives that we have that are still open. Primarily, we have actually, I think we only have one more incentive left to meet, and that is the Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, adding a bonus run of AON New Game Plus. So please get your donations in for that. It's only like a 10-minute run, and it is something really awesome to watch because it is, well, with The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, this is a game that Nisiark has pioneered pretty much all by himself. So you will definitely want to watch that run because it's actually quite interesting. Even though I didn't even know that there was a Game Boy Advance port of the Two Towers. So I definitely recommend that you guys check that run out. So yeah, we'll see you guys in just a little bit after this quick intermission.